Porchers.
Welcome to the Sports Porch, Philadelphia. Sorry about that beginning, folks.
Whew, you know what? Technical director continues to have trouble with the technical stuff.
Well, it's kind of those, I can't rub my belly and chew gum at the same time. And this is like chewing the world's largest piece of gum. And I already have the world's biggest belly. So, what are you going to do?
It's like
so,
Big League Chew.
Thanks for being, which was on our top 10 candies list the old Off the Grid, which we're going to be bringing back here. Anyway, thanks for being here on the Philadelphia Sports Porch all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X. The Fantasy Alpha crowd, of course, is in the house. Thank you very much. And we do drop the podcast right after the show. You can subscribe there. You can listen. You can leave us a review on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get what, Schwalber?
Your frickin' podcast.
That's exactly right. And hey, I gotta give you kudos, man. The Sixers are not doing great. That's going to be part of the show tonight. Of course, we're going to go over that. But encourage you to subscribe to the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube. It is youtube.com/ at Philadelphia Sports Porch. If you're watching us live, you can see it down there in the ticker. That's where you catch the Grand Schwalbini.
The Grand Schwalbini knows all.
On the
and knows very little at times. Because our prediction of Sixers and 6 ain't happening.
No,
but it's so let's just get into
it. This is how we do things here. We got 3 pages we're going to go over tonight. Page 1 is going to be the Sixers. Page 2 is going to be the Eagles. Their draft was a pretty good one, I think. And page 3 is going to be the Phillies. They're pretty hot right now. So let's move to page 1. The Sixers.
Let's get the misery out of the way early.
That's right. And this is 10-9-8-7 Sixers playoff talk. They're on the ropes. And if you've been paying attention and subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Philadelphia Sports Porch on YouTube, you can watch the Grand Schwalbini after every Sixers playoff game. Of course, fingers crossed, we hope there's more than one more, right?
We do.
But what's the stat? Let me just start with this real quick. There were those reports of Embiid and Bell's palsy.
Yes.
I mean, could anything else go wrong for this guy?
Right. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, he also did drop 50 points with Bell's palsy.
I know. I know. Well, it's like I had a friend that had it pretty badly, and it lasted almost a year for him.
Yeah.
And really, your face kind of just slides down.
Right.
But he told me, my friend did, that it didn't really affect his vision, and his face didn't feel numb. It just, when he looked in the mirror, it felt a little strange. And when he looked in the mirror, like, obviously he was horrified. So, I mean, does it really affect Embiid? Obviously dropping 50 in a game.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to.
I think it was a mild case, and I think it's all but gone now.
Oh, really? That's quick, man.
Yeah.
He got lucky.
Yeah.
So he drops 50, and in the latest Grand Schwalbini update, you spoke about the Sixers' need for a third star. So,
the bottom line is they just don't have enough. I mean, you either need 1 or 2 stars, which you can say the Sixers have 2 stars, him and Tyrese Maxey.
Right.
You either need 1 or 2 stars and being able to go like 10 deep in terms of role players, or you need 3 stars and maybe you only have to go, 3 deep on your bench.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Sixers have neither. They don't have 3 stars and they don't have a deep bench. And it's actually kind of frustrating because during the regular season, it seemed like the bench was better than some of the benches we had in the past.
Right.
When they got Buddy Hield, I mean, this is a guy who's a 40% 3-point shooter. And it's like the moment was too big for him. And he's barely scored.
Did they get him at the trade deadline?
Yeah, shying away from open shots, so much to the point that Nick Nurse didn't play him in the last game.
Right.
He's supposed to be a major bench player.
Yeah.
The only guy that's showing any heart off the bench is Cam Payne. And Cam Payne's a guy who was in the finals. I forget with which team, but he's played in the NBA finals, so he's not afraid of the moment. But he gives you energy and he gives you a burst. But I'll tell you what, man, B-Ball Paul, I mean, he's just been horrible. I mean, he can't. I mean, when he goes off the floor to give Embiid a rest, I mean, we're talking like, Sixers are going to lose 8 to 10 points doing that.
Right.
And so finally in this game, they did that in the first half, and that's what happened. And Nick Nurse, I think, my feeling was actually the same. It turns out that it wasn't the right way to go, but I would have felt the same as Nick Nurse in the moment. Hey, you got to be out there because we're going to lose too much when you're off the court. However, at the same time, I think what we learned is, I mean, he's out of gas.
He gets tired.
He
He is human, a large human and almost superhuman.
Yeah. Right. And plus, like, let's be honest. I mean, it's like, he's almost involved in like every single play. So it's not like it's not like he's taking plays off out there.
Well, that's I mean, that's you got 5 guys on the court and you're moving the ball around. That's just about everybody.
Right.
But your point is well taken. He is the focus.
Right. Well, it's not like he's a guard on defense and he on defense is battling 3 guys for a rebound.
Yeah, every shot.
Right. So or if anybody gets past the guard, he's going to try to help block the shot. And give help. So, and he just didn't have it in the fourth quarter. And Maxey didn't either. The thing that's a shame is that the series really should be tied 2-2. The bad calls by the refs in game 2 was just a killer because that game was won. It was over.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I mean, they're down 3-1, but because of that, I would say it's been a very even series. I mean, even when the Knicks have won, I don't know if they've won by more than 5 points.
Well, in the first game, they won by 7.
Okay.
The second game, 104-101, so that's 3. And then the Sixers won by 11. And then they won by 5 the last game. So, but still, I mean, you're not talking. There's no blowouts there. The closest blowout was when the Sixers won.
Right, and actually, if you put all the scores combined, then what is it? The Knicks have outscored them by like 2 points.
Yeah, I'm not going to do the math because I don't feel like doing it in my head.
Right.
But yeah, as far as points on the board, it's been a fairly close series.
Right. So
I think you're right. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think what we are discovering is that this particular mix of players needs a third. I hesitate to use the word star, but it needs a third participant,
somebody competent, right? Like I'm sorry, but you hate to put contracts onto people, but look, Tobias Harris was signed as a max player.
Yeah.
Which is the most money you can give a player.
Yeah. So he's gone after the end of this year.
Right. He's gone. I mean, look, I think he's scored 7 points, 7 points, 8 points, 10 points. I mean, it's just not enough.
Yeah.
Plus also not hitting a big shot when you need it. Seriously, it seems like any points he gets, it's like either like the first 2 points of the game or a three, in the first half, or something like that.
Right.
He's never hitting any big shots. And then the other thing is, I mean, God, for a guy that big and tall, boy, can he not rebound.
Yeah.
And boy, can he not, make layups that are contested. I mean, look, every layup in the NBA is contested.
Right.
The fact that you're two feet from the basket, that's why you should make the shot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I figure I can make that shot.
Right.
Maybe.
So it's maybe, probably not, but
yeah, bro.
But
I'm not tall enough.
It's very frustrating. Now, like if you take a look at the Knicks and see, to me, that's all the more reason why it's frustrating, is because look, the Knicks don't even have 2 stars. They just have 1 star.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson. And I'll tell you what,
he's putting on a show.
He had a hell of a game last game. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I never thought he was going to be that good. I mean, I think he was picked maybe like in round 1, maybe like 15 through 18, something like that.
Right.
He wasn't a top pick. Honestly, he played at Villanova. And was it Villanova or was it Temple? I think it was Villanova. And really never was he anything special. He was just a good college player. But I'll tell you what, he's really become a hell of a player.
Yeah.
He really is.
Well, some people blossom in the right system.
Yeah, he really is a heck of a player. But really, he scored half their points.
Yeah.
Like they scored like 97. He scored 47.
Yeah, 97. Yeah. Damn close to half their points.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like we're talking like they have better role players than the Sixers do. Now, are they tremendously better? No. What they are better at, though, is they're better at effort. They're better at diving for loose balls. They're better at getting offensive rebounds. They're better at keeping plays alive. They're better at doing the dirty work and hustling. That's what they're better at. So that makes them better.
Right.
But it's not like, look, it's not like you're dealing with, Kevin Durant out there, or like, LeBron and, Dwayne Wade and Shaq or something, you know what I mean? So it's kind of frustrating. It's also frustrating too, how, the Knicks think that they're all that.
Well, so far they are. You made that comment after their first playoff win.
Right.
You went off on Knicks fans, because they were partying like they had won won the series.
Right.
Well, now they're 1 game away.
Yeah. Well, they were partying like they won the series in the last game too.
Yeah. Well,
it's just a big party for them.
Yeah. Every win's a party.
but it's. I mean, look. Nothing would surprise me. I mean, would it surprise me if the Sixers go out with a whimper? No.
Yeah.
Would it surprise me if they come out and they fight and they stretch it to 7 games? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunately what I was saying on the last Grand Schwalbini playoff talk podcast is the bottom line is it doesn't really matter, because I'm sorry, but there's no way that this team is going to win a championship as constructed as is. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you would need Embiid to be 100% healthy, and he's clearly not.
Right.
He's even putting up 50 points on like a broken leg and face. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. And he's still not healthy.
It's hard to do with a broken face.
And he's still not healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They need somebody that when he is not at his best.
Right.
And it's hard to argue somebody dropping 50 is not at their best.
Right.
But when he's not at his best, and Maxey can't carry the load.
Right.
They need that third person. I agree with you 100%. This whole trust the process thing, I think the process has one more piece. I think they will. I mean, obviously, they're not going to bring back. Well, we don't know this for sure.
Yeah.
But it would seem that Tobias Harris is not going to be in a Sixers uniform next year.
He's not.
So now you've freed up that money. So then the question becomes, and this is all speculation.
Right,
I mean, who the hell knows? Right. They rattle off 3 straight wins. Next thing you know, they're going to the next round.
Right.
That would be potentially what we feel is a miracle.
Right.
So maybe this will be the last gasp for this group of players, because I mean, Embiid is in the middle of his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know how much longer he has left. Now he's at the pinnacle of it right now.
Right.
But you've got to add that person now,
right?
and maybe retool that bench a little bit. And that's what Nick Nurse is for. So, obviously bringing him in when Embiid went down for, a good portion of the year, they stayed in the mix like we wanted them to. So the coaching is involved in that. But here's my, let's, and we got a big draft we need to talk about with the Eagles here. So I'm going to do this right now. I am going to predict they go out with a whimper.
Are you?
Yeah, because I think based on the interview, what I read of the interview with Embiid, even after the victory, you could almost tell that he's exhausted. I know he came back from an injury and he was very healthy, and of course he rehabbed and he rested. But I think the whole idea of coming back from that injury and then you're suffering from Bell's palsy, and then you got to carry the load against an upstart Knicks team that, like you said, they're better at the hustle to the ball. They're better at keeping plays alive. I think he doesn't have the season behind him, and his legs aren't underneath him. I think the team is exhausted with the idea of we got to make it further.
True.
I'm calling a whimper. That game is, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. up in New York. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to go out with a whimper, it's going to be in New York. Now, if they win that game,
then all
come back to Philly,
it's back on again.
Things can change. Right. But I say whimper. Tomorrow night's the last game.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Sorry, Sixers
Wouldn't
fans.
surprise me. I am actually predicting that they will win the game.
Yeah.
Because it almost seems like in the NBA, it's like once you think a team's finished, then all of a sudden they have a good game.
Well, basketball is one. Look, basketball is one of those sports. It's a game of runs.
Right.
And if you get to the point where, that run occurs in the last 3 minutes.
Right.
Well, you can turn things around. So we'll see. We look forward to another update by the Grand Schwalbini tomorrow night after the Sixers game. And as fate would have it, I'm going to be out until about 9:30, but that should be right around the time you're doing it.
That is okay. Let's talk NFL draft. Let's raise the mood.
Yeah, let's bring things to something really positive right now. Of course, you can follow the Sports Porch on YouTube at youtube.com Now I can't even say .com right. Backslash at Philadelphia Sports Porch. We're trying to grow that channel. I put the link in the comments. Please hop over there. Subscribe to the Philadelphia Sports Porch for all things Philadelphia sports. The Grand Schwalbini, if there's anybody out there that knows more about Philadelphia sports, we'd like to invite them on the show.
Yeah, sure.
Page 2 tonight. Hey, the Birds. Let me tell you, I was impressed with their draft.
Okay.
And I'll let
why
you.
So?
Oh, you want to hear what I have to say first? Well,
sure.
I want you to go through your guys. I want you to go through the draft analysis, and then because it's in there.
Okay.
Is why I was impressed. But overall, I feel like they addressed. And they're lucky because they have a lot of position players that are exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
At wide receiver, on the line already. They did need some defense, but I think they addressed everything really well, and I think they got a couple steals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they had a great draft. And I'm guessing you think the same way.
I would say I think it was a good draft, but I'm not going to rush to say that it's a great draft because you know what? What happens is, so the Eagles drafted 9 players,
right?
That's
a lot of picks.
If 5 of them turn out to be really good starters, then it'll be a great draft.
Right.
So right now, we pretty much know there's going to be 4 guys that they drafted that are just not even going to make it.
Yeah, that's true. They might not even make the team this year.
Right. It's everybody always talks about like, well, they needed this and they got this. Well, but can the guy play? Well, we'll see.
Yeah. That's very true. So with their number 1 pick, this guy I think was a steal.
Well, yeah, I think he's a steal based on where they picked him, right? Because he was really the all consensus number 1 pick in the draft, Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, Quinyon. For those of you listening to the podcast, I have his mug up there, cornerback out of Toledo, but he was the highest, the second highest or highest rated cornerback.
Yeah, he was the highest rated cornerback by just about everybody.
Yeah.
Now look, he played at a small school, Toledo.
Yes. Yeah. However, so did Jerry Rice.
Yeah. Well, here's
not at Toledo.
I can give you about 3 reasons why it doesn't matter. Okay. So the thinking is, well, he didn't play against the best competition, right? Well, they played Ohio State, and he went up against Marvin Harrison, and he shut him down.
Exactly.
He also apparently was such a standout at the East-West Shrine game, basically where all the best receivers were there, and nobody could complete a pass against them.
Didn't he? It was either him or I don't think it was Terry and Arnold, but one, and it could have been your other cornerback, but I don't think so. I thought I heard something that said in 402 pass attempts his way, he did not give up a touchdown.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was him. Yeah.
I mean, that speaks volumes.
Right. No touchdowns given up.
Yeah.
Owned Marvin Harrison, owned the the East-West Shrine Bowl. And he runs a 4.33 too.
Yeah, he's fast.
So you got to love that. And the fact that he was there at 22 is just insane. Look, the only reason why he was there was because you had the quarterback happy teams. You had six of the first 12 picks were quarterbacks.
Insane. This is either going to be the 1983. This is going to be the 1983 class all over again.
Well, there's going to my prediction.
There's going to be like 2 great ones,
right?
2 average ones, and 2 busts.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
Right.
And you never know who's going to be the standout and who's going to be the bust, right? I mean,
JJ McCarthy could be the next Pat Mahomes, or Tom Brady, or vice
exactly.
versa.
And the Giants will forever kill themselves for passing on him.
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. Exactly.
But look, based on where he was picked, he was in most mock drafts. Picked to go somewhere between like 10 and 16. So the fact that they got him at 22 was pretty amazing. Now let's go to the second round pick.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons. This to me, Cooper DeJean,
defensive back, Iowa,
out of Iowa. What they like to say around our neck of the woods, the white guy from Iowa.
Yes. How about the Eagles with the 2 white defensive backs and Reed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean?
Yeah, I think that's kind of racist to be honest.
I'm sorry.
Steve is watching on Facebook. He says, like the Eagles draft picks, but that AJ Brown contract, $96 million in 3 years, like, yikes. We'll get to that later. But
let me address that while it was brought up.
Are you sure? Okay. All right. All right.
Actually, I think that is just another example of the genius of one Howie Roseman. Because look, there's a couple guys out there who are waiting on their deals. There's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
when he signs, he's going to be number 1. When Jamar Chase signs, he's going to be number 1, right? And I believe there's a third one. I just can't remember the name right now. But there's 3 big time wide receivers that are due a contract. And what Roseman does is he gets in there, he makes it 3 years, so it's not too long.
Right.
Right. He squashes any kind of, he's unhappy business, makes him for the moment the highest paid receiver in the league, which will probably change in a week.
Right.
Right.
That always happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And, basically you keep, a player that's a little bit on the edge happy. I think that's kind of learning from your mistakes with T.O.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that is, you're giving him a lot of guaranteed money and you're keeping him happy.
Right.
You're guaranteeing he's going to be on the team at least for the next 2 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you sent us an article about how they work their cap money, cash up front doesn't count against it, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So I agree. I actually agree with you. I think where Steve is coming from, let me see if we have a couple other comments in here from, and then we're going to move on. CD Lamb is the other big one.
Oh yeah. CD Lamb,
and Steve does agree 3 years is good. I think where he's coming from is just the fact that you're committing so much money to. We're just not used to that. The old school where we come from, starting our football days.
Right.
It's kind of like, this money is insane.
Oh, it is.
It's just insane.
It's completely insane. It's completely insane.
I know, but they're getting it, and good for them.
Yeah. All right. So let's go back to Cooper DeJean.
Let's go back to Cooper DeJean. This is the guy that I actually thought made their draft really, really good. And the reason for that is that, they've got Darius Slay and Bradbury in the corners. And what they're doing is they're creating a succession plan for their defense.
Right.
Okay. Slay and Bradbury are still good corners, but you can tell
Bradbury's not.
And okay. So what I'm saying though is they're professionals.
Bradbury is going to be on the bench this year.
You think so?
Yeah. I think Quinyon Mitchell is an automatic start.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really interesting with
Cooper, could be right about that.
The thing that's really interesting with Cooper DeJean, and first of all, too,
other than the fact he's white.
Yes. Right. He was supposed to go in the first round.
Yes. That's what I saw that. I thought, wow.
There were a lot of teams that were, for example, the Eagles were basically thinking Quinyon Mitchell wouldn't even be there.
Right.
And they'd be happy if they got DeJean there.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of teams thought, hey, if we got this guy in the first round, that'd be a great pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they were throwing him around in the Steelers draft for him too.
Right. Right. So he's got a lot of talent. And the thing about him that I think coaches like is apparently he's got a lot of versatility. At Iowa, they moved him all around. He played corner, he played outside corner, he played nickel, and he played safety.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is I think what you're going to see is I think he's going to compete for a starting position at safety because I think they want to upgrade from Reed Blankenship. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's, that happens during the season.
Is he a little small for safety, though?
No, he's really not that small. He's apparently a very good tackler.
Okay. Well, that's what counts.
And I think that they're going to use him a little bit at nickel. And, kind of any time where, Slay comes out for a couple plays, they're going to use him. So I think the bottom line is I think he's going to be on the field quite a bit. And I think maybe mid-season, last third of the season, he might end up in a starting spot, maybe due to injury or maybe due to somebody not playing well.
Yeah, I think he was an absolute steal.
Yeah, but it's also what you're saying with the succession plan. It is entirely possible that this will be Slay's last year, and they'll move on from Slay and Bradbury after this year, and your two starting corners could be DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, so you hope they hope they put on a good show this year in the time they have to play. Right. So I what I'm saying is I think it's smart.
Yeah.
I think that was a really smart pick. And it shows how the Eagles also had the most trades in the draft, but it shows their thought process in doing this. Yeah. You've got a successful franchise. And now what you're doing is you're looking down the road and you're saying, who do we need? Not necessarily who do we need to plug and play right now? Of course, if you have that, you do that, but you're also saying, okay, these guys have performed for us, but how are we going to keep this going?
Yeah. The other thing that was impressive too was when you're when you're picking in the 4th round, in the 5th round, in the 6th round, let's face it. I mean, you should probably have when you're up to draft, you should probably have 6 or 7 guys that you'd kind of like to take.
I'm sure they do.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, just by jumping back 5 spots, in each of those rounds, they added a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th for next year.
Right.
Which is just really freaking smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely it is. Okay, let's move on. Next up, round 3, Jalix Hunt, outside linebacker.
Okay, now
from everybody's favorite school,
Houston Christian. Steve Hockey Jesus. Now I will say this. The only reason why I don't give the Eagles an A or an A+, I probably give them an A- as a grade. I don't like this pick.
Okay.
And It doesn't mean that maybe who will be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I don't know anything about it.
Here's why I don't like the pick. I
am going to name my next kid Jalix.
Okay.
It's like Jalix Cube.
I don't like this pick because, it's the third round. I don't think we need to take a project in the third round.
Yeah.
I think that there are guys who could probably jump in and maybe be a starter that you can get in the third round, right? If you make the right pick.
Well, what do they like about this guy?
Well, what they like about him is he's got an incredible skill set. He's one of these guys, very kind of like a weird story. He played 3 years at one of the Ivy League schools, I think.
So he's got a brain.
Yeah, he's probably smart.
Yeah.
I forget which Ivy League school. It might have been like Princeton or something like that. But he didn't even play defensive end. He was a safety.
Oh.
And I don't know. He just decided that he didn't think he was going to make it as a safety in the NFL. So he went into the transfer portal and he went to Houston Christian, which, by the way, you were saying, huh? Houston Christian?
Yeah.
You're right. Now, this is not Toledo where you play Ohio State.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Houston Christian. I looked up the schools in this conference. Now, granted, it is Division I. I had not heard of any of the schools, like none of them. None of them.
Wow.
Like I looked at this one and I'm like, oh, Texas A&M. Oh, wait, that's Texas A&M Christian?
Yeah, there you
or
go.
Something else, or Texas A&M, like,
Texas
Wallbanger or whatever.
Texas.
Oh no, actually, you know what it was? It was Texas A&M Commerce.
There you go.
The hell's that?
I don't know.
Apparently they have a football team.
Yeah, they do.
But look, he's played against nobody now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Look, okay, so he's only had 1 year of playing defensive end.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Like, I think he had like 6 or 7 sacks. Well, like, I'm sorry, but if you're playing against nobody, I'd like to see 12.
Yeah.
I'd like to see 13.
Yeah.
Now look, and so what is it? He's one of these high risers because he goes to the Senior Bowl and he impresses everybody.
Right.
He looks really good at the Senior Bowl, and then he goes to the combine and he runs fast and and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. To me, I just sort of see it as a bust pick. I just see it as, hey, look, the guy's never played, any meaningful Division I college football. He's just new to a position. It's a developmental type of pick. I mean, maybe best case scenario, he comes in on a few passing downs this year. If he shows anything, you might not even see the field. He might not even be active any game this season. I just think, it was Cornell. That's right.
Thank you, Steve.
I just think this was a bad pick. And that's the only pick that I think was bad, but I think it was a bad pick.
All right. Well, and after I never heard of the guy. So after your description of that, it's a head scratcher. That's what I'll give it. It's a head scratcher. Maybe they saw something that we don't. Well, look, obviously they saw something we don't know.
Well, look, the draftniks love it.
Yeah.
They think it's great.
Yeah.
Like they think like, oh, they found a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, maybe.
They had to pick him then because he was going.
Yeah. Of course, coal takes millions of years to turn into.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like the pick. I see it as this one as we look back on, we say it's a bust.
Okay. Next up, Will Shipley, running back from Clemson in round 4. Give me your thoughts on this one.
Well, you know what? This one I am sort of iffy on.
Yeah, me too.
Now, here's why I'm iffy on it. I'm iffy on it because, look, this is a really highly touted prospect. He goes to Clemson. He's basically the main offensive weapon at Clemson. And he certainly showed like a nose for the end zone. I think he scored like 30 some touchdowns.
Okay.
In his time there. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's very shifty, so he's kind of hard to tackle.
Well, he fits their offense.
Yeah, but he doesn't really have breakaway speed. He did run a 4.39, but
that's pretty fast.
It's pretty fast, but I don't know. He doesn't look fast when you look at the tape. He just looks more shifty.
I would call that sneaky fast.
Yeah. So here's kind of where I was with this one. first of all, they did need to draft a running back because they have Saquon Barkley's going to take all the carries, and then you're going to sprinkle in Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens if one of those guys goes down?
Yeah.
Right. So you need another back.
Right.
So, I just thought it was okay. I thought there were maybe some other backs that I would have maybe like drafted where they drafted J Links. Right. However, there was one really positive thing about it, which was I was watching NFL Network, and remember Maurice Jones-Drew?
Yes. Yeah.
Maurice Jones-Drew
played for the Jaguars.
Maurice Jones-Drew thinks he's the best running back in the whole draft.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God. He's like, I can't believe it. The rich just got richer. I can't believe they got Will Shipley. You're going to see in the NFL, this guy's going to live up to the hype. He is an absolute standout, running back. He's my guy for this draft. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to just say, I hope that Maurice Jones-Drew knows a little bit more about running backs than I do.
Right. Did Jones-Drew go to Clemson?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because if he went to Clemson, then I totally discount that.
Yeah, I don't think so. Steve, look that up for us. Where'd Maurice Jones-Drew go to college?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Barkley gets injured a lot. Exactly. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's an okay pick, but like to me, this is one where this is a 50-50. He might turn out to be, and look, I don't think he's a lead back by any stretch. I think he's more of like, maybe he's like the Lightning in the two back system.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He's a role player.
He's a role player. He's either going to be a role player, a decent role player, or he's going to be a bust.
Okay. We are on page 2. The Eagles draft was fire. Maybe not as fire as we thought it was. If you're watching live right now, you're watching the Philadelphia Sports Porch on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and what's the other one? Facebook, all over the world. We do drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
But I will say this, just in getting you ready. Those were the only 2 picks. One pick I didn't like. One pick I was on, which was Will Shipley. All the other picks, except for one other, I really liked.
Okay, so the next pick, Ainias Smith in round 5, wide receiver from Texas A&M. Good Lord, do they need more receivers on the Eagles? Well, tell us about this, Schwab.
Well, so here's the thing. So obviously you got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're 1 and 1B.
There's really nothing after them.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah. That's it. So, they signed Paris Campbell as a potential for the slot.
Who?
He's you know who he is.
I'm just kidding.
From the Colts,
Yeah.
They signed Devontae Parker. But I almost feel like he's not really a slot receiver. I almost feel like he's more like an injury type precaution. If one of the guys on the outside goes down.
Right.
So they, Quez Watkins went to the Steelers. So they really don't have a slot receiver pinned down at this moment. So I think the idea with him is if he's good enough, he could be the slot receiver.
Well, and this draft was very deep for the receiver position.
Right.
So
now here's what I like about this guy. When I watched the highlights of this guy, and apparently like Nick Sirianni was really excited about this guy. What I really like about him is he's hard to tackle.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, and this was a comparison I heard. Look, he's not going to be as good, but the comparison was made to Deebo Samuel.
I love how they do that.
I know. But that was the comparison in that, but the idea is not really that he's going to be as good as Deebo Samuel.
He's hard to get down.
He's hard to get down. He's like, he's like built like a running back. You know what I mean?
Well, and with that new rule, the hip tackle rule, that helps the runners.
Right. So, I could see him, he could be a good guy. Like he's the jet sweep guy.
Yeah.
He's the reverse guy.
God, I hate jet sweeps. So bad.
He's a receiver who can block, So I have a good feeling about him. I think he's going to become an adequate, third receiver option.
Right.
That's a prediction from the Grand Schwalbini. I have a good feeling about him.
All right. You have to get out your lamp when you do prescriptions.
Yes,
don't you? Okay, moving on to the next pick in the draft for the Eagles. This is one I love this just for nostalgia's sake. I'm sure all Birds fans, they gotta, if you don't love this pick, you are not an Eagles fan. Let's just put it that way.
That is right.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
The baby Axeman.
Round 5.
And by the way, number 54 is available.
There you go. Oh, God. Let's just hope he doesn't leave the Eagles and sign with the Reds or the Commanders, There he is. And he looks a lot like his dad. He's a little smaller, but it looks a lot like
I have to tell you, I saw a lot of drafts where he was going in the second and the third round.
Yeah.
I was surprised that he stayed this long. And to be honest, there were times where I was like mad. I'm like, why are you not picking Jeremiah Trotter? You're picking this J-Links dude?
Yeah. Would you would have picked him in the third round as opposed to?
I would have.
Right?
I would have. Now here's the thing. So the thing with Jeremiah Trotter is, the only thing keeping him from being like a first through third round pick is his size.
He's undersized.
He's undersized. He's 6 foot. He's like 223.
Right.
But apparently there's a lot of linebackers that are 6 foot, 223, and have been really good players.
Right.
And all this guy did at Clemson, who plays the best competition every single game.
Oh yeah.
All he did was make every defensive play for them.
There you go.
Like he
must have been tired.
He led the league in tackles. He had interceptions, run back for touchdowns. He had sacks. I mean, he basically did it all. I mean, there was some stat, I can't remember what it was, but it was something like in the last 2 years, he's the only guy that's had this many tackles, this many sacks, this many interceptions, like a list like that. And he was the one who had the most.
Well, and he's got a name to live up to. He's got a pedigree. And I mean, if you're Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I mean, don't you think you spent most of your life hoping you'd play for the Eagles?
Yeah, it's definitely a feel good story.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see him. Do you think he's a day one starter? Do you think he moves up?
I don't think he's a day one starter.
I mean, I understand fifth round, but I get it. But it's just kind of like be kind of interesting to see him take the field.
Here's the thing: I don't see him as a day one starter, but I see him potentially as a day one starter, not this year, but next year.
Gotcha.
I like what I see is, look, Nakobe Dean and Devin White are going to be your 2 starters at linebacker.
Right.
And then part of his playing time is going to be based on, can Nakobe Dean stay healthy?
Right.
Right. What I imagine is going to happen is he'll be in some like dime packages as a linebacker. And probably what will happen is, like, I mean, look, until it doesn't happen, you got to say Nakobe Dean, you can't count on him to be healthy.
Right.
He's going to come in there and he's going to play when Nakobe Dean's not healthy. And I think he's going to play well and command playing time. The hope is that, maybe Nakobe and Trotter can be your 2 starting linebackers of the future. I'm still very excited about Devin White and what he can do this year.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's very much at least what people are anticipating. I'm very high on Devin White, but some people are not. Some people are like, he had his moments of greatness and he's just kind of not as good anymore for whatever reason.
Right.
So who knows?
Okay. Next up, now they go back to the line. I feel like the Eagles should have drafted maybe somebody a little higher, but Trevor Keegan, round 5, offensive guard from Michigan.
See, here's my thing. This guy for the Eagles, this guy is my sleeper.
Gotcha.
All this guy did was play offensive line on the best offensive line in college football the last 2 years.
This is true.
That's all he did.
That's it.
That's it.
Nothing else.
And he's a guard. He's not like he's got to play guard and then move the tackle. It's not like a tackle moving inside to guard.
Yeah.
He knows exactly how to play the position. He's tough as balls. He obviously reminds me of Kelsey, because on the Michigan championship parade, he took his shirt off and chugged a beer.
Yeah. That's why they drafted him.
but I'll tell you what too. I listened to all the interviews. He was basically my favorite interview post draft. He just seemed like a dude who's just like ready to go out there and just freaking knock some people around.
Yeah.
And really kind of almost takes it personally that, like, he's drafted in the 5th round.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm 1/5 of the best offensive line in college football.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I got a good feeling about him. Like, it won't shock me because right now what you're looking at is your line is Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson as the tackles. Lane Dickerson is one guard. And then Cam Jurgens, by all accounts, will likely move to center because he played center in college at Nebraska. And then you've got a right guard opening. So your right guard opening, it's either going to be Tyler Steen, who was a 3rd-round pick out of Alabama last year, or it could be this guy.
Yeah.
It won't shock me at all if this guy somehow earns the job either in the spring, in the summer, or maybe Tyler Steen starts and doesn't do well in the first 2 games, and then this guy goes in. Right. I just have a good feeling about him.
Right. Well, and offensive linemen, you can get starters in the later rounds.
Oh yeah,
that happens on a regular basis.
Yep.
1st-round picks. Do you realize over the years, 1st-round picks have a 50% bust rate?
Oh yeah, sure.
50%.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 picks in the 1st round, you're pretty much guaranteed that one of them is just going to vaporize themselves.
Right.
They're just going to disappear. Okay. Trevor Keegan, offensive guard from Michigan in the 5th round. Now we move on to another wide receiver in the 6th round, Johnny Wilson from Florida State. What are your thoughts, Schwalbini?
Now this one is the one other that I'm kind of meh about.
You're mad?
Meh. Yeah,
that's a Steve word.
Yeah.
Meh. Yeah.
Now here's the thing. So the guy's a freaking monster. Okay, he's 6'7", and I think he's like 235 or something. So he's like a
Megatron.
He's a beast, right?
Yeah. Megatron.
But he's a beast that doesn't have incredible stats. He's I don't know, like 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, right? I believe what they're doing with him, which is also why I think it's not going to work, is they want to convert him into a tight end.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
They want to convert him into a tight end. You know what? I mean,
he's not heavy enough to be a tight end.
I don't know. Yeah, he'd have to put on weight.
Yeah, he'd have to put on 20, 30 pounds.
There's another guy whose name escapes me, who's been with the Eagles for several years. And he was just a big receiver, kind of like that, who, wasn't anything special in college, but had that bigger body where you thought like, if we could make him a tight end, he could be a good receiving tight end. Never happened.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I see here. I think it's just being a little too cute with the picks. But, he's a guy that they had in on a top 30 visit. So, apparently they like something about him. So we'll see.
All right, moving on. The next pick, Dylan McMahon, a guard/center in round 6 from NC State. Now, was he more of a guard or more of a center?
Center.
Okay.
He was more of a center. Now, this is really interesting. So here he is, pick 190. And if we go back, I don't know how many years it was. Let's say it was like 14 years ago. Jason Kelsey.
Yeah, I know.
Picked at pick 191.
Yeah.
Undersized center.
He was undersized when he retired. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So they're trying to go back to the future here, you think?
No, I just think that, look, now there's one position that I have full confidence in development. And that's at the offensive line position.
Right.
Because you got Jeff Stoutland. He's widely considered one of the best offensive line coaches in football, also known as Stoutland University.
You're right.
And, like this guy took Jordan Mailata, a rugby player, 7th round draft pick and basically turned him into a Pro Bowl level player.
Yeah.
Right. So, this guy, and also too, people don't realize it. There was a point in time where Kelsey had some good years, but then he had like a bad year or two.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wanted Kelsey gone. And this is the guy who really fought to have Kelsey stay because he thought he could get him to another gear. And he obviously did. So I think he's a really good offensive line coach. So it wouldn't shock me if, when they draft somebody in the 6th round, it's because Stoutland wants them.
Right.
Right. So it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if
it's like we're all out of ideas. Anybody need anything?
Right.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me if it turns out that the guy can play.
Well, we'll see. For now, their line is set, but you can never have enough offensive linemen on the bench.
That is right. That is right.
Yeah, one of the most injury-prone positions out there. So as far as the draft goes, and we got one more thing with the Eagles on page 2, and then we got a couple minutes left for page 3 in the Phillies.
What was your thoughts?
Well, I told you in the beginning that I liked their draft. I liked it mostly because I feel that they did get a steal in their first 2 picks.
Yeah.
And I know that the bigger issue for them right now their defense is an issue. I mean, their defense is an issue. Their linebackers we'll see. I mean, Devin White we'll see if it was a good signing.
Right.
Nakobe Dean, I mean, he's got to live up to his billing this year or it's, or he's done. I mean, done as far as like, he's going to be great.
But I do think they helped the secondary a lot.
They did. That's what I'm saying is that by drafting these guys, you've got, not only do you have guys that you can plug and play, potentially in the beginning of the season if you need to, because you never know, somebody could go down in spring training in camp, and I loved those. I thought they were great. I'm with you on the Jalix Hunt pick. That's a head scratcher. The running back, I understand that completely, and I don't think that's a bad pick at all. Your wide receiver room, you've got to have guys other than Brown, and Smith, because look, it's a lot of these guys are playing, and they're lucky if they play 14 games in a 17-game season.
Right.
And you also need some guys in the slot. You need some role players.
Yeah. Plus the other part is, with all the attention that's put on A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Goddard, these guys should be wide open if they're good.
Right. So I like that. I also I love the Trevor Keegan pick. Okay, you got to keep that line fresh.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Coming from Michigan, the best offensive line in the country, you're 1/5 of that. There's a reason for that, and you're 20% of the best offensive line in the country. You know how to play. Yeah. And I also like the fact that he plays one position. Yeah. I don't like these Swiss Army knife picks.
And the other side of it is, what did Michigan do better than anybody else? Run the ball.
Exactly.
The reason why J.J. McCarthy wasn't the number 1 pick in the draft is because he really never threw the ball.
I know. I think they said there was one game where he had 6 pass attempts.
Right.
It's like, and he wasn't playing in Buffalo in not minus 20 degree weather.
Right.
That Mac Jones game. So overall, I'm with you, like, because of that Jalix Hunt pick, and
I think it's like an
A minus.
I give it an A minus.
Yeah.
I might even go towards B plus, but that's because I'm a little bit of a hard grader. Yeah. I mean, as far as the national outlets,
I love the Jeremiah Trotter pick. I think
I do like that.
Not only do I think he's a little undersized, but what I think is that he's going to have heart.
Well,
and that means a lot. And the fact that his father was a huge star with the Eagles gives him a leg up, because he's got a coach besides his coaches. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. And the other thing about Trotter Jr. is, the reason why he's so good without having, the measurables is because he's got instincts.
That's right.
Like
That's what I'm talking about.
He's a football player.
Right.
he reads the play. That's why he intercepts the ball. He doesn't intercept the ball because he's got a long reach.
Yeah.
He intercepts it because he knows the play that's coming.
He anticipates
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm A-. You're going closer to B+.
I'll give him an A-.
All right. We got to get to this signing real quick because we want to talk Phils in a second. So they did sign Mekhi Becton from the Jets.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
So he's a guy who was a former first-round pick in 2020. And he hasn't really lived up to the billing, mainly because he's been injured a lot.
Okay.
So they're bringing him in, he's getting a nice paycheck. He's 1 year, $5.5 million.
Right.
Right. But he's a swing tackle. So he's basically in injury insurance. If Lane goes down, if Malata goes down, he's somebody who's played, plenty of NFL football. And, if Stoutland can maybe get him to live up to his potential, maybe if you're in that spot, he can play well for you.
Okay.
So I think it's a good signing.
Absolutely. So the draft is over, and now we start having our convulsions because we just want camp here, and summer, it hasn't even started yet.
That's right.
And so we'll move on, but pretty decent draft for the Birds. And we'll see as it goes along. So you can follow the Sports Porch podcast. We drop it right after the show. This is the Sports Porch Philadelphia on the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And we encourage you, please grab us on YouTube. Follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube at youtube.com/@Philadelphia Sports Porch. I'll get that right one of these days. Thanks for being here, guys. We're moving on to page 3. The Phillies are hot, hot, hot. And while we were doing the draft talk, I took a gander over here at the standings in the NL East, and they're a game and a half back of Atlanta. I mean, look, still, again, how often are we going to say this? Early in the season, still April.
It is
19-10, 4 in a row. They just, they shut out the Reds. They took 3 from the Padres, who are they're the sorriest good team in baseball. And of course, they have tonight at 9:30 or so. They're at Anaheim Angels, or is it the LA Angels now?
LA Angels.
Who the hell cares?
Yeah, who even cares? That's not even like a real team.
Ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, man, firing on all cylinders. Starting pitching is pretty good.
Oh yeah. How about
hitting the ball?
How about Ranger Suarez? He just I don't know exactly what it was, but he finally gave up a run. He had something like 32 straight scoreless innings.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's like more than Carlton ever had. I think he was just under Grover Alexander and Cliff Lee had a little more.
Cliff Lee, Steve
remember?
Carlton. Those are. I mean, you're going back and then way back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I think Ranger Suarez's ERA is 1.23 or something.
Yeah,
it's really low. Wheeler's ERA is in the ones.
Yeah.
I think that Nola and also Suarez is 5-0, and I think that Nola is 5-1.
Yeah.
And Nola's got an ERA in the 2s, which is good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So starting pitching,
it's been good.
Yeah. And baseball's a streaky game. Well, we talk about the NBA is a game of runs, every game. Well, baseball is a game of streaks.
Well, the other thing I want to point out too is we could potentially, I'm one, I don't know if you remember, but last year I was telling you that Alec Boehm is the best hitter on the team.
Right.
And he might be finally coming into his own this year. Again, it's early, but I believe he's hitting 365.
Yeah, I'll tell you here in a second. Boehm currently is batting 365. He leads the team there, as well as 26 RBIs. His on base is 441. Trey Turner's leading the team in hits, and Kyle Schwarber, of course, is leading the team in home runs. But I always like to look.
I think Trey Turner is also hitting like 335.
339.
Okay.
But what I love is this is the thing. Kyle Schwarber is such a lovable player because he is old school.
Right.
And it's like he just wants to crush the ball.
Right.
And he actually is not bad at it.
Yeah.
And what I love is when I look at his strikeout numbers, it's like he's one of the only guys who bats 200, has 44 strikeouts, and you're like, he's got to be our leadoff hitter. Where does that happen anywhere else? It just doesn't.
I know it doesn't.
But I just think it's incredible. I love that fact. It goes against every ounce of baseball wisdom I have ever been taught.
That's right.
But it frickin' works.
Yeah, that's the only reason why they do it.
Yeah.
Because for some reason it works.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about it this way. He's been on the team for 2 years and 30 games.
Right.
And he, over the weekend, I believe he went over 100 home runs as a Philly.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's
insane. And he's probably got like 300 strikeouts, but those home runs got him to the playoffs, got him to the World Series.
Right.
And he's batting leadoff.
Right.
All right. And if you listen to our Pittsburgh show, when I go off on the Buccos, the leadoff spot is a problem there.
The most fun lines are when it's like this. It's like, one at bat, one run, one hit, one home run, 4 RBIs, 3 walks.
Right. Yeah.
It's like he gives you those fun lines.
He does. He does. And look, giving credit where credit is due, he does lead the team in walks with 20. Mm-hmm. So that's why his on base percentage it's not great, but it's 316, and his OPS is 707, which ain't too bad. So, I love that. But looking at Bohm right now, 365, only 19 strikeouts, 14 walks, 26 RBIs. And he's played in all 29 games so far.
6 home runs, I think.
I'm looking at that 4 home runs.
4? Okay.
Yeah. So what you really need, if you need anything right now, is you need Bryce Harper to start hitting the ball. He's off to a slow start. But see, that's the thing about baseball. It's rare that you're going to have every hitter on a streak, on a positive streak.
Right.
So you've got guys that are picking up the slack now while Bryce works his way into a groove.
Right. And then probably what'll happen is, Trey Turner and Alec Bohm will maybe hit a slow spell, and then Bryce Harper will be going off.
Yeah. So looking at their schedule coming up, of course, we talked about this already. Anaheim tonight. You've got Sanchez as the starter. Then Anaheim tonight, tomorrow. Oh, wait a minute. Today's Monday. Yeah, I'm losing track of time. Yeah, Anaheim tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. You got Sanchez, Turnbull, and Wheeler penciled in as the starters there. And then you have 4 against San Francisco back in Philly. That series is going to start off with Nola moving to Suarez, and then Walker and Sanchez. This stuff can always change. And then you got 2 versus Toronto, and then you go on the road. And
I think we got it for now.
Yeah, you play Miami and New York. Well, I like to look at like the next 10, 15 games just to see what's coming up. But 19-10, game and a half behind the Braves. We were talking about, why do the Phillies never get off to a hot start? Well, they kind of turned things around.
Yeah,
I think we're still in April.
I think you can say it's a hot start now at this point.
I would say they have turned it around into a hot start.
I think they're tied with the Braves for the most wins in the National League.
19. They are.
Right.
Yeah, they're only a game and a half back because of the losses.
Right.
All right. Last thing on the docket here is something we're going to talk about coming up soon. Schwaber, what's coming up in July what's coming up soon on Philadelphia Beautiful that we love?
Cheesesteaks.
Yeah, that's right. The
cheesesteaks. When you start talking about it, your mouth starts watering.
I'm friggin' hungry now. I really am, for real.
I don't even know why you did that to me.
Because I like torturing you. And that's vice versa.
Yeah, we're real hopeful that we're going to be able to get some folks from some of the best cheesesteak joints across Philadelphia and hear from them what they think are the keys to making the best cheesesteak in Philadelphia. And then we will be launching in July the 6th annual Cheesesteak Championship.
The 2024 Philadelphia Cheesesteak Challenge is coming soon. And prior to that, we're going to have the Great Cheesesteak Debate. So you guys, thanks for being here. Pay attention. That's coming. More to come on that in the future. Great show, Schwaber.
Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening.
And this has been the Sports Porch Philadelphia. You're watching live all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And of course, we're going to drop this podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Subscribe, leave us a review, subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Philadelphia Sports Porch on YouTube. I am your technical director, and I am out. 10-9-8.
76ers, don't give up hope.